Hi, hello everyone, and welcome to this session on JHipster, what's new in our Spring-Summer 2018 collection. So, I'm Julien Dubois, I'm the creator of JHipster and still the lead developer, but Dubois is close now. I work for Ipon Technologies, so we are a French company with offices in the US also and in Australia. And we are sponsors of Devox France since the beginning, so we have a booth if you want to come and meet us. And you can follow me on Twitter or react to the talk at Julien Dubois. Deepu.
So my name is Deepu K. Sasidharan. I'm the co-lead of JHipster. So I started as a JavaScript evangelist guy, so now into full stack development as well. So I work for a company called Zibia Labs. We are based in Netherlands and US. We build DevOps products for the enterprises. We are kind of competing with all the Jenkins kind of products. You can follow me on Twitter at Deepu105. So I just wrote a book on JHipster, so it's available from Pact.
Thanks for the book, by the way. You just gave it to me. So just for people who don't know JHipster, we just have one slide of introductions and it will be a bit harder, I guess. So what is JHipster for people who don't know about it? It's an application generator that focuses on developer productivity. Initially, it's Spring Boot and Angular. We already now tell /React because we'll talk a lot about React today. Let's say backend and the front end playing well together. We also generate lots of development and production workflows, so you can develop easily and go to production very quickly. And one of the nice things about JHipster is that we have a huge community. We've got like 420 committers now to the main project. There are also some side projects. So it's lots of people, and we have more than 10,000 stars on GitHub. So it's really a lot of people contributing to the project and liking the project. So that's really cool. But now let's go to JHipster 5 itself. So JHipster 5 is just around the corner. We've got a beta 0 release that is already released in our beta channel. The final version will be released very, very soon. The first big news on the server side is, of course, we are migrating to Spring Boot 2, like we should do, because Spring Boot 1.5 is the past now. So first, it's a huge new release. We've got lots of new features thanks to Spring Boot 2. We've got updated libraries for everything, so that's also pretty nice. The migration has been quite complex for us. Hopefully for you, it will be just typing JHipster upgrade, but we compromise. Depends on what you did. There's lots of new configuration, lots of refactoring to do, and that's been quite a long trip for us. I don't know how much time it took in total, but several months.
A few months, yeah.
And so with JHipster 5, we're going to migrate to JHipster 2, and JHipster 4 will be the last release, Spring Boot 1.5, because, they will both die together. One of the big news with Spring Boot 2 is reactive support. We don't have such great news about it for JHipster. If you are using Spring Boot 2, you've got reactive support, that's cool. But reactive support with JHipster is a bit complex for several reasons. First one is that it's only working for some specific use cases, so it's only a part of what we generate. The second reason is that it doesn't work well with our front end, because on our front end we expect to have let's say collections of data, not streams of data. So it totally changed the way it works. And also, it doesn't work well with, let's say, what we traditionally do is you got Spring Reflux or Spring MVC. You can't have both together. That's what we discovered quite recently. And it's not. We can do streaming. That's good, but it's not reactive, which is not that good. So it's still a work in progress. We have no commitment yet. We don't say if it will work or not. We will have probably something.
We were even discussing about dropping it if you can't use Spring MVC and Reactive like Webflux together.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense for most of the use case to just have Reactive, but not Webflux for common REST APIs.
So we're doing a meeting tonight around beers to discuss about that. The second big thing on the server side is upgrade of let's say Java and Maven. So with JHipster 5, well, and thanks to Spring Boot 2, we've got JDK 9 and 10 support. So to be totally honest, for compiling, I'm still using JDK 8, but I run it on JDK 10. I don't use the same JDK for building and running. It runs faster. Basically, you gain 10% of performance when you start up, so it's interesting. We've got a Maven bill of material, well, since a long time on JHipster. It has been totally refactored, and that should not have a big impact for, let's say, normal users. But one of the issues is that Spring Boot, well, Spring dropped their own bomb. You know, there was a Spring platform bomb, and they've dropped support for it like 10 days ago. So if you use the JHipster bomb, we are doing like the buffer between Spring platform and Spring Boot. But well, there are some changes that you will probably notice at some point. Oh yes, and we had a JHipster server-side library. We renamed it JHipster Framework. It's the same as before. It's just because the name looked more precise than just JHipster. At least you know it's a framework on the server side.
Yeah. So the biggest news in JHipster 5 is the React support. Technically we added React support in JHipster 4 as an experimental feature behind an experimental flag. So I think most of our mainstream users were not aware of it, and also it wasn't complete. It was, as the name said, it was experimental. So with JHipster 5, it will be out of beta, and it will have all the features that we support in our Angular implementation as well. So it will, on feature-wise, it will be on par. And of course, there might be some hidden bugs which is still not discovered, and we are still working on polishing that part. So our React support, compared to what you normally get, say using the React's Create React app or similar tools out there, is that it's completely in TypeScript. So, and we try to follow closely what we do in Angular in terms of how we name our components, how we lay out our folder structure. Say, for example, we provide similar interceptors that we provide Angular, so that any users of JHipster who wants to try out React will be more comfortable knowing that, knowing already the Angular structure and naming conventions. It'll be easy for them to follow this. But in the same time, we also try not to migrate away from the normal React community standards and practices. We closely follow that as well. So we provide a balance. Say, for example, we don't put all our tests within the source as React community does. We still put it together with our Java and other tests in the test source. We use Redux and Axios for the endpoints communication. So Redux is our state management. We by default provide Redux, React Redux implementation, as well as we integrate Redux Tongue and Redux middleware for asynchronous communication and for chaining of your actions. We use React Router version 4, which is the latest from it. And we also provide React Strap, which is like a Bootstrap 4 implementation. We didn't go with the more popular React Bootstrap implementation because it doesn't support Bootstrap 4 yet. So we went with React Strap, and it's quite nice. Our experience with it was quite nice. It's quite feature-rich and comparable to what we provide in our Angular support as well. And our Webpack setup for React is quite close to what we provide in Angular as well. So if you're planning to switch from Angular to React, then this would be the easiest way for you to learn or to try it out as well. If you already have a JHipster application, and if you're considering React, then you could just copy your configuration, create a new application, just change the client-side framework to React, create a new application, and compare. And you would see that it's not too difficult to switch and not too complex to learn as well. And on the Angular side, we improved quite a lot as well. We changed the layout, especially when you're using microservices, because we were generating all our entities in the gateway for microservices, and we had feedback that it's a bit confusing when you have a lot of microservices with entities, because everything is together in the gateway. So we now group them by microservice. So entities are grouped by microservice, so it's easier for you to work on them. And we also changed how we had our edit and create model dialogues. We used to have model dialogues for edit, delete, and create before. Now it is only for delete. For create and edit, it's normal pages. Because of some issues with, especially with Angular, how the pop-up route works. So when you have pop-up dialogues within Angular, the routing is a bit, I would say, annoying and a bit strange. Your URLs will look a bit strange. You would have certain issues when you do, say, for example, lazy loading. And so we decided to remove that and provide proper normal pages for edit and create, which makes sense for most of the times. We also introduced lazy loading. So we started with our admin module. So it is lazy loaded now. So it should be much better for performance if you care a lot about your bundle size and your client-side performance, then this should be a good news for you. And our idea is to extend this slowly to entities as well. So every entity module would be lazy loaded in the future. So this is very good for applications which is very sensitive about the bundle size and the client-side performance, because you are splitting your application into chunks which will be loaded as you visit those particular modules. So it is much better than loading 3-4 MBs of data at a go. We added Moment.js support for date handling, and unfortunately we had to remove AngularJS since we introduced React. We can't maintain like 3 frameworks altogether. It's too much of work. So we had to drop AngularJS support. So if you still want to use AngularJS, then JHipster 4 would be the last release.
With Spring Boot 1.5.
Yeah.
And JDK 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another important news in JHipster 5 is migration to Webpack 4. So Webpack 4 is supposed to be much more faster than Webpack 3. So we migrated to Webpack 4 for both Angular and React. So of course the build speeds have improved. So if you are running in prod, your bundle sizes should be slightly better compared to Webpack 3. Due to the new Glyphi.js configuration and the default optimizations that Webpack 4 now does. So in development, if you are running, say for example, if you are running browser sync with Webpack dev server, which is the default that we provide in JHipster, then you should see a noticeable improvement in your recompilation speed. So when you change something, your pages should refresh faster because compilation is much faster now. And in dev, there is also increased speed improvement. We also switched to TS Loader from Awesome TS Loader, which we were using earlier. And this has given us a bit more speed improvements, especially in development. And we added some cache loader for better caching as well. So if you are running continuously the builds, then you will see that your subsequent builds are much more faster due to the caching.
Yeah, and I can confirm because I use it all the time, and thanks to Deepu, I'm winning lots of time every day now. Another new thing is Prettier. So Prettier is so it's not a beautifier like most people would think at the beginning. It's a tool that understands your code. It does an AST of your code, and then dumps it again. So it's going to rewrite all your code according to some conventions. So it's extremely popular in the TypeScript world. So of course we are switching to Prettier for both Angular and React because both of them are in TypeScript. So what we generate now is being rewritten automatically by Prettier, and it's very fast because it's in JavaScript, so it works with all our stack. And when you are doing some code now, we've got some Git hooks that are going to also rewrite your code. So everything is following the same standards. So for TypeScript today, I would think it's a new standard for everyone. So we are having it also in JHipster, and we highly recommend it. It's really good. And as we loved it, we also have it for CSS and Sass. So that's pretty new, and that's really good. And as we also loved it, we wanted to have it also in Java. And it looks completely crazy to have this in Java. But in fact, we are working with one person with migrating this to Java. He has not finished yet, and we are going to help him as much as we can. But hopefully, so not for JHipster 5 now, but maybe in 3 or 6 months, we will have Prettier also for Java. So you will have everything written correctly with Prettier. So also Java code will be better. Like like the imports, we cannot generate them cleanly all the time. It's quite complex. While with Prettier, we don't have to care because we generate like all the imports, and then Prettier is going to make it good. That's really something huge for us.
I would like to add on to that the idea behind Prettier is that you shouldn't be spending too much time, discussing about what kind of formatting to use and because it really doesn't matter, right? In the end, say 2 spaces or 4 spaces, it's debatable, but it really doesn't add much value, right? So Prettier takes care of that, so that you don't worry about that, and you let Prettier take care of all your formatting needs, and their team just writes code, and Prettier takes care of formatting, whatever, based on. And precisely why Prettier doesn't provide too much configuration options. It only lets you configure few things which is too much of a holy war, like say, for example, 2 space was 4 space, or like comma was no comma. So things which are like holy grails already, which people fight all the time. So other than that, it doesn't let you configure much because it's heavily opinionated. So I have been using it for like a few months now, and I would say that I really loved it. It really takes away the concerns of like, okay, should I put it on a new line? Should I all these things? It just takes that away.
Sorry. We are going also to release GDL2, which is done by Mathieu Abouachi. By the way, there's a link with Prettier, well, Java Prettier, because both of them, they are doing an AST, an abstract syntax tree, so they need to parse the language, understand how it works. And so they both work together. And so we're using a new parser called Chevrotin in French, I don't know. So it's done by someone from SAP. And it's much better than one we used to have with spec.js. So if you want to contribute to the GDL, it's going to be much easier for you now than it used to be, because basically only Mathieu understood what he wrote. So now we can also understand what he wrote. And aside from that, also Mathieu did a huge work on the GDL. So we've got now the GDL v2. And the v2, so GDL v1, well, we'll have a small demo afterwards on, and where you will see the GDL. It's for designing your entities. So you could design entities, design relationships. Well, now you can also design applications. So you could have like 3 applications, I don't know, 14 entities, and share stuff between them. So the idea is that when you do microservices architecture, you could generate a whole architecture just with the GDL. So you would not just generate entities inside an application. You could generate a whole architecture of several microservices all working together. So it's going to be much more, I don't know, advanced than what we used to have. It's also going to be easier for us to share our code between us. So that's also something we will work on. Concerning deployment options, because we mostly talked about development, well, we didn't do all, well, quite, I mean, the previously existing deployment options were quite good. They are still here. Typically, if you use Heroku, if you use Cloud Foundry, if you use Kubernetes, OpenShift, it all works, that is used to work. There is only one option that wasn't very good. It was AWS support. So we have a team at Ipon, well, it's Ipon Australia. It's my colleagues from Australia who worked on this. And they have improved so the existing AWS support, which is based on Amazon Beanstalk. So if you don't know Beanstalk, it's a little bit like like Heroku. It's if you want to deploy in simple WAR with a database, so for let's say normal application. So they improved it. Well, they debugged it mostly. It's not improvement. It wasn't working well. Now it's working better. It's still not totally finished, but it's much better than it used to be. And they worked on Amazon Fargate. So this is a totally new deployment option, which work on the Amazon Container Service. So if you want to deploy, let's say, a much more complex application, which is multi-AZ, which is on using Docker images and so on, well, it's the way to go. Well, in my opinion, it's so much complex that, well, you can run it. It's going to make you win a lot of time, but after that, you will probably need to tune some stuff because it's so complex. Anyway.
Okay, so another important direction that we are taking with JHipster 5 is support for something we call blueprints. So currently, the only way to extend JHipster is by creating modules. We call it modules. So these are like plugins or Yeoman generators which can work with JHipster, and you can try to add new features, tweak created code. but it's not very friendly for most of the use cases. Say, for example, if you want to add another deployment option, of course, you can build a module to do that. But if you want to change existing code, say, for example, you want to generate, say, Vue.js instead of React for the front end, then it's quite complicated to achieve that with module, because you would have to do a lot of regex, find and replace, replace existing files, delete existing files, stuff like that. So it's not very friendly when it comes to these kind of use cases. So and Yeoman doesn't provide an out of the box way, to customize templates as you need. So we came up with something called blueprints, where you could override a certain part of the generator. Say, for example, if you want to say use Vue.js instead of React for the client side, so you could write a blueprint which only provides templates for Vue.js. It doesn't care about server side or anything else. It only provides all the templates required for Vue.js, and you follow certain directory naming conventions we provide, and sub-generator conventions. So it is still going to be a Yeoman generator, but you would run it using JHipster. So when you run JHipster, you will specify this particular blueprint, name of the blueprint, and JHipster will use these particular templates instead of its own. So when you create the application, it will use all the server-side templates that JHipster provides, and it will use the client-side templates from this particular blueprint you provided. So this way, you will be able to easily override certain parts of the application. Say, for example, you can override only the server side, or you can override only the client side. You could even override a specific part of the server side. Say, for example, you want to change only the user management part. So you could still let JHipster generate all the user management, and you could provide certain templates what you need to override. So this is what we are trying to achieve. It is still a work in progress. We already started working on a JHipster Kotlin blueprint, which uses Kotlin as the backend instead of Java. So that will be like our sample blueprint. But the same methodology can be applied to say change any of the client-side technology you want, say Vue.js or even Kotlin on client side, or Polymer or whatever you want. Same goes for backend. So this is something that we are trying to perfect and polish as much as possible to help people who want to extend JHipster, because we keep getting feature requests for this and that, but as a team we can't maintain everything. We already, I think, maintain too much of technology, and it's becoming even difficult for us to manage. So the idea would be to encourage more people to come up with blueprints and modules to support these other use cases, instead of adding everything into the main generator, so that the community is maintainable.
Yeah, and another use case is we have many companies want to use JHipster but want to customize the templates. They tell us, okay, what you generate for entities is really good, but we would like to change this part. Well, we don't want pop-ups. So we removed it, but that was a common question. We would like to remove pop-ups. We would like to have our header. We would like to have our own authentication framework. So those companies could make their own blueprints, which would be quite easy to do, and which would replace just the parts of JHipster that they don't like, so they can have exactly what they want.
Yeah. So our idea is to provide a blueprint generator as well, so that you could generate the skeleton for the blueprint and start providing your own templates. It would be much more straightforward than building modules, because you can look at what JHipster has in its templates, and you just need to provide equivalent templates. And since the blueprint is controlled by you, you can choose not to generate certain templates or add additional templates as you want. And as he said, you can use JHipster for everything, but provide your own entity template. So each entity you generate will be according to what you like, and you can still use JHipster for everything else as well. So that should be possible. Okay,
so
now it's
time for a demo.
Yeah,
Voilà.
time for a demo.
So while you start, I'm just going to explain what we're going to do. So we talked about several things. As you've seen, the most noticeable change is React support on the front end. So we're going to generate a JHipster 5 application from the master branch. So if you use beta 0, it's an older version. Here we are with the latest version. So with React support on the front end, and Spring Boot 2 and everything else that we talked about.
So I'm going to go with all the default option except for the React part, because that is the new thing that we have introduced. So I'm going to go with default for these as well. I'm not going to go with a registry. I will go JWT, SQL, MySQL for production, H2 for development, EHCache for caching, Hibernate cache.
Maven.
He loves me.
Who wants Maven?
I love Gradle, so we always disagree on this.
Who doesn't want Gradle?
Who wants Gradle? Okay, you win. Okay, and I'm not going to choose any of this for today.
React support. That's the only thing that changes.
Okay, and
so that works as before. You can have SAS or not. You can have international or not.
A small piece of advice: if you're going with React or even with Angular, since we are on Bootstrap 4, I would strongly suggest to use SAS, because if you are using Bootstrap 4 and without SAS, it is much more difficult to customize it. With SAS, it is extremely easy for you to customize Bootstrap. You can, we provide a Bootstrap variables file. You could just change some variables there, and you can entirely change your theme, which is not possible if you are using CSS. So I would suggest to go with SAS whenever possible. I'm not doing it here because it will download Node SAS, which will take 1 more minute for the demo. So, but otherwise, I would suggest to go with SAS when possible. Oops, no. Yes, English and French. And I'll skip these as well.
We will not test anyway.
Yeah, I'm not going to add any additional modules. And yep.
So this is like what we used to have, except that at the end you will have Prettier that will run to write.
Yeah.
Already done. Yes, it's in the pipe. Yes.
We pipe whatever we generate to Prettier before we write it into the disk, so it is already formatted.
So you didn't say it, but it's like it used to work, but it's better formatted. And yes, one change we didn't talk about because I know we will wait for it. It's Puppeteer. We were using Phantom.js for testing, and unfortunately it's discontinued. So we have migrated to Puppeteer, which is maintained by the Chrome team, I think. So it should be much better. The only issue with it is that it's much bigger, so you have to wait for it to download.
In the meantime, maybe we can.
Yeah, you can see Puppeteer here. Code. Yeah, you can already show the code. Not working? Oh.
Just took a while. So I'll try to make it bigger. Is it visible? Yes. Should I make it bigger, or is it fine?
It's fine, I think.
Okay. So if you are already familiar with JHipster, then the structure shouldn't be any different. It's the same. But if you're already not familiar with JHipster, then this is where you will find most of the tool configurations like Prettier, editor config, and stuff like that, including the URC file, which is the application configuration from JHipster using Yeoman. And you would find all your Webpack configuration in the Webpack folder as well. As you can see, like Webpack 4 introduced this concept of zero configuration JS. Like you don't have to configure anything; it will do most of the stuff out of the box. But we still provide with a lot of configuration, which we already spent time optimizing and stuff. So we didn't remove most of that. We only removed what was already done by Webpack. Other stuff we retained. For the in the main directory, you will find all your source files, like your Docker configuration files here. Java source code, resources for the server side, and your web app, which is your React code. And you can see that within the app folder, this is all the React code. And since we are using TypeScript, you will find the TSX extensions, which is synonymous to JSX. And you will see the weird thing for most Java people, like HTML inside the JavaScript code, which I was talking to Antonio today, and he still seems to find this weird to have HTML.
I also find it weird.
Sorry, everyone finds it weird? Yeah.
We like this.
I think whenever I'm in the middle of a lot of Java developers, I hear the same thing. Okay. Now I know why Java developers like Angular more than React. I used to be that. I used to like Angular more than React as well. But once I started using React for like a year, now I like React more. So it's only natural. Okay, let's see if yeah. So this is done. I'm going to start up my server. It shouldn't take much.
Yeah,
8 seconds.
It depends on your machine, but you can see quickly it's on Spring Boot 2.0.1. It went quickly, and the logo changed because we don't have the same logo for React and for Angular. You know, the green and white, the green and red for JHipster was for Angular. Well, it was red from Angular, so now we have the green from React. Okay, so the logo changed. And as you can see, the image is not on the same
and
side.
Tattoo. We changed the tattoo.
And the tattoo changed also.
It was a lot of effort to change the tattoo.
Yeah.
I spent like a few hours changing the tattoo.
And otherwise, as you can notice, it looks the same. It's absolutely different inside, of course.
Yeah. And we made sure it looks and feels the same, so that people don't find it too different, and also it's easier for us to maintain. Yeah, but it's really looking the same. Yeah. Oh, by the way, you didn't generate the entities. Oh yes, I didn't generate the entities. Yeah, because we could have a look here, but it's like the usual screens you are used to, and so we prepared a little GDL for you. So this is using JHipster online on start.jhipster.tech. So you can create your GDL here. So it's still GDL 1 because I didn't update yet JHipster online. And that's normal because JHipster 5 is not out yet. But here we've got some GDL 1 code. We are doing, we just played with that before coming. It's a conference. There are speakers, there are attendees, there are sessions. Not as good as your model, but...
Yeah, but we did that in 10 minutes just before.
So let me, quickly, so we have a conference entity, a speaker, an attendee, and a session. And we have a many-to-many relationship between attendee, session, speaker, and conference, and one-to-many between speaker and session, and conference and session. So just going to download this.
Yeah. I'm not guaranteeing that this is businessly correct. We just had fun with it before coming. And yes, so with JHipster Online, you can generate it online. It will do a pull request on your application, on your GitHub application. It's not working yet because it's not released yet, of course. But of course, as soon as it's released, I will update JHipster Online. It's very, very easy.
Okay, so I'm going to generate the entities using the import JDL.
So this works exactly as before. If you have used this with JHipster 4, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same.
Exactly. It was. Ooh.
The file name.
You had an issue with the file name?
Yep. 1 second.
So it's working exactly as it used to. Oh, yeah. That's a nice file name.
Yeah. I didn't notice that when I downloaded it.
So it's exactly the same GDL language as we used to have. It's exactly the same task as we used to have. It's the same thing, except now it's going to generate Spring Boot 2 code and React code instead of Angular code. So it's a very easy way to migrate if you used JHipster before. Or here you have Webpack running. So if you are used to this, you know that it can be a bit slow. Well, you can see with Webpack 4.
It's much more faster now.
It's much faster than it used to be.
The Webpack part used to take more time than the backend, so the compilation. But now it's
JavaScript was a lot slower than Java, which was not normal, and now they are, let's say, equals in speed.
Let me recompile the Java code so that the server reloads.
Oh yes, we still have hot reload of the Java side, but as Dubois is not using an IDE.
Yeah, IntelliJ takes up a lot of time indexing and stuff, so I find it a waste of time when demoing stuff.
Yeah, I hope it will work because you had a nice tag trace.
Oh, damn. What happened? Application run failed.
You just kill it and run it again. Just 8 seconds.
Or something went wrong.
Yeah, you're not. I don't think you win time by doing that. In the end, hopefully it will work. Otherwise, I have a backup. It's running on my laptop. And yes, as you can see, Java is as fast as JavaScript now. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And so if you load this now, you got entities, and so you got what we ask in the GDL.
So I'm going to create
and you can create conference and so on. And so this is a React app everywhere. So if you are used to what we used to have in Angular, it looks exactly the same. Except we don't have pop-ups, but we also remove the pop-ups in Angular. So you really have exactly the same thing. So all this work for exactly the same UI in the end. But it's with another technology.
And you can notice that we are doing some advertisement.
The pop-ups are a little bit different, the warnings.
Yeah.
The toast, that's how you call it. So yeah, so Dubois is going to create some entities and do some links, just so you see that everything is working, both on the front-end side and the back-end side. Yeah, so you have a one-to-many, and
I need attend to a session first.
yeah.
Yes.
And paginations works too, like it used to work. Well, it's exactly the same thing, but it's quite a lot of work to have exactly the same thing working, as the Angular application was very, very complex. So that's where we spend quite a lot of time in the last months. I don't know when you started, at least 6 months ago, I'd say.
Sorry, which one?
When did you start migrating to React?
Technically, I started almost a year ago as a module separately, but then wasn't having a lot of contribution or personal time to finish that, but then we decided to put it in the generator. Then I started getting contributions.
Yeah.
So then it was faster.
Yeah, and now that's why we released it in our beta channel, so we have more people using it, so we have more feedback, and we find more bugs. But in terms of stability and bugs, it's probably equal to what we have in Angular. It's I personally don't know any bugs currently on the React part.
I know few. I couldn't think of a name. Okay.
Yeah, anything.
Still couldn't think of his last name.
I just put.
I could only think of Indian names.
Well, that's an Indian name, isn't it?
No.
I'm not sure it's appropriate.
It's okay.
Yeah, we have a code of conduct, by the way.
Okay, so yes, all the entities are working.
Yeah, so everything is working.
Yep.
It comes from the database, so.
And yeah, you have all the usual stuff as well, like what you would find in Angular: user management, metrics, health screen.
Everything is recorded. So if you used to work on that
configuration screen
with Angular, well, everything is working as it used to be.
Even the WebSocket support with the tracker.
Yes, even WebSocket support is working.
I didn't select the option. I should have. We added the WebSocket support in React as well.
Oh yes, we didn't talk about that. Yeah, you know, with JHipster we have WebSocket support with Angular, which is awesome, I think.
And on React we do it with RxJS, so which is nice.
I don't remember who did that. I think it's an external contributor. I don't think it's a member of the core team. I'm not sure.
I think it was a member of the core team. I think it was. I forgot who, but it was.
But he's a great guy.
Yes. And the Swagger docs.
Everything is working.
Yeah. And all the account modules as well. And even we wrote our own translation module. So because one of the challenge was that there are a lot of libraries which does translation similar to Angular Translate. So in our Angular implementation, we use Angular Translate, which is very nice. And we didn't like what the Angular team proposed for translation because it required you to pre-compile stuff and like you couldn't do runtime changes and stuff like that. So we stayed with Angular Translate, and I think the Angular Translate guy now joined the Angular team as well. So when we were doing React, we found a lot of similar libraries, but the problem is each library had their own format for the JSON files. And we already had all the translation JSONs. We wanted to reuse that. So using some other library, we would have to either, at runtime, we would have to convert all our JSON to that format, and still it will be like buggy and difficult to maintain. So in the end, went through the code of Angular Translate, and it turned out to be quite straightforward and simple. So I just went ahead and re-implemented that in React.
Yeah, because
perfectly fine.
We have like 30 languages today in JHipster, and we just had a pull request to add a new one. That's what I was looking for. I don't remember. Yeah. So but we have so many languages and so many people who work on that. We couldn't lose that. Yeah, so and honestly, they are very good templates.
Yeah. So we can delve a little bit more into the code.
Oh no, no, we don't have time for the code.
Okay, we have time for questions, and we can
we just have a couple of slides. That's why.
Yes. Let me go back to the slides.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because what's missing? We didn't do everything. You have tons of people wanting tons of stuff. The two most common ones. The most common one is clearly Vue.js. Everybody wants Vue.js. I think someone did a module on Vue.js.
Yeah, there is a module.
But I don't know what it's.
Probably we can convert that into a blueprint and support it like externally.
Yeah, it would probably be the next step for us, but then it's 3 front ends, so it's a bit complex. We also have lots of people who want serverless, whatever that means.
I'm not sure about what to do for that. I mean, you could already say, JHipster skip server, and it generates only the client side. Probably that can be considered serverless. There is no server there. So.
We had a bug recently. There was a guy who said no server, no client, and he was surprised nothing was generated.
Yeah, that was an issue.
And to me, that wasn't a bug. Sometimes we don't know what people want. In the future roadmap, we should have said JHipster 5 should be out of beta. That's the first step in the roadmap. We have some improvements we want to do on JHipster Online, and what we would like to do very soon is open source it. I should have open sourced it from the beginning. It's just me who coded that quickly, and I need to clean up a little bit of my code and also migrate completely to MySQL, because today we depend on some Google-specific APIs, and if we want to make it available as a Docker image, and so you could run it anywhere, we shouldn't rely on specific APIs. So this should be quickly open sourced because it's quite easy. I've nearly done everything now. We're going to have some improved OpenEdit Connect and Auth2 support thanks to the job of Matt Variable and many more people, but he's mostly the one doing it today. We hope to have some common code for Keycloak, Okta, JHipster URL, and Google. I am not sure if we will achieve this. At least Keycloak and Okta will work. Okta will work because Matt works for Okta, so I guess he will make that part work, hopefully. That's all for the roadmap, yeah. Okay. If you want more information on JHipster, we've got lots of websites. If you have tickets, it's on GitHub. If you have questions, it's on Stack Overflow. Don't cross-post, or you will get, I would say blocked. No, we never block people, but your questions will be closed.
So if somebody is interested in buying my book, there are some discount codes for ebooks and print.
Keep it a little bit because people want to do a photo of the discounts. Okay. JHipster 50 and JHipster 15.
Yeah,
okay,
I think
it's quite
enough.
easy. Okay.
Yeah, it's quite straightforward already.
And if you want to, meet us again in June in Paris, we are doing the JHipster Conf with lots of, probably all of the core team now, I think. Most people are coming. We've got international speakers. It's one full day. It's totally in English because, half of the speakers are not French, maybe even more. So it's totally in English. It's only 60 euros, so it's much cheaper than Devox. Looking at Stefan. If you have your goodie bag from Devox, you have the JHipster mask, and behind it you've got everything about JHipster Conf. So we've got the URL and everything. And that leaves us with 38 seconds to take questions. So if you are very, very quick, we can take one question. No? Nobody? Okay, well, anyway, we are running out of time. So thanks a lot, everyone, and thanks, Deepu.
Thank you. Thanks.